$1,000 on the line in this 2023 fantasy football draft. Let's go over this draft and how I felt about certain values going throughout the draft and the teams in this 2023 fantasy football $1,000 draft. First round, nothing too crazy here. Most I could say, Austin Ekeler at pick number 4 in a half PPR league. Not something I'm personally doing, but obviously the 2-year run that he is on, I can't blame a guy. But I'm pushing him farther down the line in the first round. And then that Cooper Kupp value at pick 10, I haven't seen that in any of the drafts I've been in. To get him in a big money league is pretty surprising that late. Here in the second round, a lot of wide receivers starting to fly off the board, as it should be in most drafts. At the turn, pairing CD with Cooper Kupp, obviously a great ceiling with Cooper Kupp and CeeDee Lamb combined. Personally, I like to go running back, wide receiver in the first 2 rounds, but in a 3 wide receiver league, I definitely can't get behind stacking up 2 top 5 potential wide receivers. Personally, I'm taking Amon-Ra St. Brown over CeeDee Lamb, but I can't argue with someone if they decided to go that way. The surprising pick of these first 2 rounds is going to be Josh Allen at 13th overall to complete that stack with Steph Diggs. I do like pairing the Buffalo wide receiver with this quarterback, but if I'm having to reach this high in the draft, I don't think necessarily that's something I'm willing to do. Now, if you're getting him in the 3rd round at a slight discount, I'm more than happy to pull the trigger and actually very excited about that. But going here in the 2nd round, just a little bit too rich for my taste. I have the first pick in this draft and was able to get Tony Pollard and Josh Jacobs the day of his contract signing with the Las Vegas Raiders. So I'm able to start out with Justin Jefferson at the wide receiver position and then Tony Pollard and Josh Jacobs at my 2 running backs. I really love the start of this draft. I can't really blame any of my league mates for not taking a couple of these guys. Josh Jacobs, I do have to be pushing up closer to the middle of the 2nd round after confirming he's going to be ready in week 1. But nobody here other than that Josh Allen at pick 13 that I'm really scratching my head on wondering what's going on. Here in the 3rd round, we see a couple of the elite quarterbacks start to go off the board, Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is my QB1, so to get him as the 3rd quarterback off the board, kind of surprising. Also, if I'm a Ja'Marr Chase owner in the 1st round, I'm probably not looking to go quarterback in the 3rd round, thinking that I can stack him with Joe Burrow at a discount in the 4th or 5th round of this 10-man league. So personally, I'm maybe looking at a Chris Olave in this position, but if you're a bit lower on Olave, I can understand going to get that elite quarterback. Some other notable picks in the 3rd round, Joe Mixon. This is the highest I've seen him in most drafts. Don't necessarily hate the pick. I think he's obviously got a ton of upside in that Cincinnati offense, looking to score a ton of points this upcoming season. With not much running back competition, there aren't many players at the running back position I'm drafting over him once you get this far in drafts. Someone I'm definitely not drafting him over is Jonathan Taylor, who slides to the 27th spot in this draft. Obviously, this pick was before the news broke that Jonathan Taylor is going to miss the first 4 games of the season, at minimum being on the PUP list, not able to find a trade partner. So if I'm this team with a Steph Diggs and Josh Allen stack, reaching for that stack and getting Jonathan Taylor out for the first quarter of the season, I am very frustrated and upset with this beginning of the draft. Taylor already slipped in this draft to take him at a value with that risk. I don't mind the pick just because the upside that you're getting at this position in the drafts, there's obviously something to be said, but it didn't work out here, and it looks like an absolute terrible decision here. A true spud of a pick in round 3. Now, at the end of the round, you see Calvin Ridley a little bit higher than he goes in most drafts, non-best ball, but I'm all for it. I think Ridley definitely has an argument to be a top 12 wide receiver this season, and in those best ball leagues, he's going right around the 2-3 turn in those 12-man leagues. I can't be too critical of reaching for Ridley in this position. Team 10 at the end of the round, I really like what you're doing in the beginning of this draft. Double tapping wide receiver, getting an elite tight end in a 10-team league, and then shooting for the upside with that RB1 and Travis Etienne in that offense definitely has all kinds of upside. Really like Team 10, what they were able to do in this position. Also notable in this round, Team 6 with the triple-headed monster, Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown, T. Higgins, and then getting Ramondre Stevenson in the 4th round. I'm not that concerned about Stevenson this year. I think Zeke is going to be confined to that short yardage and maybe even half of the goal line work. Stevenson is still a top 12 running back in my estimation. So if you're getting 3 dominant wide receivers in a league that starts 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and a flex, and then you get Ramondre, who has that top 12 upside or even top 5 upside if the Patriots are able to have a good offensive season. I think this is a dream start from the 6th position in your draft. Deebo Samuel goes right before the 4-5 turn in this league. I'm fading Deebo Samuel just like I was last season. It was a very profitable decision. I'm kind of feeling the same way this year, but with Christian McCaffrey added to this offense, he's going to really control a majority of what Samuel was doing at the line of scrimmage with those short receptions. So I can't get behind him this early in drafts when the target competition is absolutely ridiculous in San Francisco with Kittle, Ayuk, McCaffrey out of the backfield, and still a team that wants to run the ball with Brock Purdy at quarterback. Real tough decision here at the 4-5 turn in my case. I ended up going Kenneth Walker and Justin Fields. Fields and Burrow are very close in my estimation. Burrow was actually ranked higher than Fields in my quarterback rankings prior to the calf strain. So I use that kind of as a tiebreaker in putting Fields in this slot. All the wide receivers I was really confident in taking here, Amari Cooper, Calvin Ridley, were guys I was eyeing at this position. According to Sleeper ADP, they had a chance of making it there, but guys, go and reach, and I can't blame them on the talented players that they are. A little early for Kenneth Walker here, but I do like him over Aaron Jones, an ascending running back compared to Aaron Jones in the later stage of his career. I think he's still going to have a lot of value in PPR leagues and be a very stable option. But Kenneth Walker in that Seahawks offense with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, JSN, and Geno Smith looking pretty solid. I think the touchdown upside here is just too high to pass up on. I'm not afraid of Zach Charbonnet. I know he's going to have a role in the passing game, but Kenneth Walker should dominate the carries, and I don't want to start 3 running backs in the first 5 rounds. But it's just kind of how the board fell, and I'll stack up on wide receivers later on. In the 5th round, I want to look at this Aaron Jones team. Does go Aaron Jones in need of a second running back, but if you look at this board, I really would have rather him have taken a Chris Olave or maybe even a Joe Mixon, reaching for him in the 3rd round and getting Joe Burrow back in the 5th round. If he could have done it over again, I think he would have, instead of going and get Jalen Hurts. When you have Jamar Chase and you know Joe Burrow is going to make it to you in the 5th round, I think he would have been way more ecstatic to have that stack than to have the combination of Jalen Hurts and Aaron Jones. Later on in this round, we see the team 10 go ahead and take Jerry Jeudy at pick 50. I don't really love the price tag with Jeudy post-injury news. I think I want to be fading him more into the 60 to 70 range instead of going up and getting him here. The only player in this round I'm really scratching my head at. Team 10 going with Alexander Mattison to pair up with Travis Etienne. This is a little bit too weak on running back in my position. I'm not a huge fan of Alexander Mattison. Yeah, he should dominate the carries in the beginning of the year, but we saw his efficiency numbers be pretty bad in 2022. So to sit here and expect him to have a full workload the entire year, I just can't get behind that note. Also in this round, Team 5 decides to go with Alvin Kamara, facing a 3-game suspension on a team that already has Breece Hall. So you're picking 2 running backs as your top 3 options that won't hit their entire ceiling until later on in the season. Not something I really want to be doing. If I'm going to take a guy like Alvin Kamara, I want to have production known in the beginning of the year and not have my workload backloaded like we expect Breece Hall to have in New York. Also, Darren Waller. I am not a fan of Darren Waller this year in fantasy. A lot of people are pumping him up in New York based off the reports we're getting in the preseason and in the practices. But taking Darren Waller over guys like Kyle Pitts and Dallas Goedert is not something I'm doing in my fantasy drafts. And then I personally get sniped. DJ Moore going 2 picks ahead of my slot. Would have loved that Justin Fields, DJ Moore stack in the middle of the draft. I have to settle for Mike Williams and Christian Kirk. 2 guys I'm excited about, but at this ADP, it's nothing to be jumping for joy. I just needed 2 wide receivers after starting the draft with the combination of Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, and Kenneth Walker in the 4th round. To close out this 7th round, I really like these running backs a lot more than the guys that we're getting in the middle of the 7th round. Guys like Cam Akers, James Conner, and a very awful Arizona offense we project. Rachaad White and James Cook are 2 of my favorite picks. Really, Rachaad White in particular, with what he's going to see in Tampa Bay. The offense isn't going to be great, but the receiving down work is going to be so elite coming from Baker Mayfield, a guy who loves to check the ball down. So I'm very excited about White here. Probably more excited than I am about Dameon Pierce, who definitely is going to have a role for Houston, but the touchdown upside and the receiving work is very limited. So I'd much rather have a guy like White in a similar offense, but much more receiving capability. Especially we can work that correlation between the Chris Godwin pick and the Rachaad White, putting 2 chips on that Tampa Bay offense. If they're to outperform their projected totals, this team should look to be pretty solid down the stretch. Some notable plays here. Javonte Williams, a question mark in my estimation. When you draft Jonathan Taylor, a very risky player in the 3rd round, who now that we know is a terrible pick in that position, I think you need to be loading up more on running backs than where he was going in this draft. And Javonte Williams as your 3rd RB, a guy who could be on a pitch count to start the season, not something I really recommend. And this team is going to suffer because of that going forward. Also in this round, Kyle Pitts in the middle of the 8th round. That is very exciting value when you're getting him 2 rounds after Darren Waller. I mean, Kyle Pitts, the most talented tight end in the National Football League, in his 3rd season, looking to break out without Marcus Mariota at quarterback. I mean, I'm very excited about Kyle Pitts if you get him at this ADP, where a lot of people are fading him due to what they saw last year. But Mariota's not the quarterback. It's not going to be that bad. I'm still drafting Kyle Pitts. And maybe my favorite 2 picks of the draft, Jahan Dotson at the end of the 8th round. With Terry McLaurin's turf toe injury lingering into the season, Jahan Dotson looks to be a breakout player, even with Sam Howell at quarterback. Let's not forget, this guy was drafted 16th overall in the first round just 1 season ago. The touchdown equity he's able to put up not only in his rookie year, but what we saw from him at Penn State, getting him at the end of the 8th round when he could be the team's wide receiver 1 with McLaurin's injury. I am very ecstatic to pair him with a team that needs wide receiver help outside of Justin Jefferson at pick number 1. David Montgomery here in the middle of the 9th round is my favorite value in this current round. Getting a guy who thinks could eat up all the goal line work for this Detroit team with a good offensive line and an offense that we expect to be much improved and near the top 10 in the NFL. David Montgomery, I think this late is a smash pick. Pairing him with Jahmyr Gibbs, which I don't love, with the upside on a week-to-week basis is going to be limited. If I hadn't started so running back heavy, Montgomery would have been my selection here. Team 4 gets a great value in Montgomery. This is the majority of our draft board here. Some of my favorite picks in the later rounds here. Brian Robinson at the end of round 10, a guy who's averaging 17 carries per game after the first week that he returns from his injury. Elijah Mitchell and Sky Moore in round 12 with clear upside. Moore taking a lot of his reps out of the slot, which Kansas City loves to pepper that position with. And of course, I can't forget about one of my favorite sleepers, Nico Collins, in the 13th round, a guy who in the final preseason game saw 2 of CJ Stroud's 4 pass attempts going his way in the targets and comes down with a touchdown. So this late in drafts, Collins is definitely a guy I'm looking to add at the bottom of my roster. Even Kareem Hunt and Leonard Fournette are guys I want to be adding, dropping right before week 1 if they don't have a destination. This is our draft board. Let me know what you guys think. $1,000 on the line here. Let me know who you think won this draft. But of course, I do have some power rankings for the league from 10 to number 1. At the bottom of the barrel, I got to go with team number 8. You reach on your stack, which I do like. A little bit too much value you're giving up, and then you draft Jonathan Taylor, a guy who is going to miss the first quarter of the season. Wasn't known at this point, but still, I got to knock points off. Number 10 for team 8. At number 5, I got team 5. Starts off strong with Kelsey, but the 2 running backs whose values won't increase until later on in the year. Alvin Kamara, Breece Hall. I don't love pairing those guys together, so I had to put you at team 9. The wide receivers in a 3-wide receiver league just weren't strong enough. At number 8, team 4, Austin Eckler in the first portion of the first round. I can go with some other guys in that position, and Darren Waller, that is just too high for me. Cap ceiling on a team that won't have that many passing touchdowns. Next, I got team 2. I like McCaffrey, but I'm not drafting him over Jamar Chase, and the combination of Deebo Samuel and DeAndre Hopkins doesn't get me too excited at that position in the 4th, 5th round. Number 6, I got team 10. I do like the Cooper Kupp value, the CeeDee Lamb. However, the abundance of reliance on that Denver offense, not something I want to be doing, as we found out the hard way last season. Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton, Samaje Perine. I think Jeudy had value where he was prior to the injury, but I want to be fading him a little bit with that injury history he's had and now creeping up again. It's just really hard to trust him there. Team 6 is my next position. I really love the first 4 round starts with those wide receivers and Ramondre Stevenson, who has upside to be a top 5 running back. But when you're drafting backup quarterbacks and backup tight ends on a team that already rosters Trevor Lawrence and George Kittle, you're leaving a little bit of upside on the table. That's why I'm knocking him down a few pegs. Number 4, I'm going with team 3, starting out Jamar Chase, Derrick Henry, Jalen Hurts. Elite start to this draft. Terry McLaurin with that injury doesn't excite me. Drafting Anthony Richardson when you've already put in so much capital for Jalen Hurts is also something I'm not willing to do here when we need a bolster of that running back position. And the running backs we do go get is a Devon Achane, injured player heading into week 1, and Jerick McKinnon, who I don't see having too much upside with a very packed running back room with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Isaiah Pacheco, and also Jerick McKinnon. Number 3, I'm going with myself at team 1. I love to start with Tony Pollard and Justin Jefferson, even getting Josh Jacobs in the 3rd round after the signing with the Raiders. But the wide receiver value we weren't able to have fall to us in the 4th and 5th round, really putting a damper on this team, having to go get 6 straight guys, Mike Williams and Christian Kirk, a little bit early than what I would have liked. I would have liked to have some running back value fall to me, but I couldn't take them with already have loaded up on the position in the first 5 rounds. Number 2, I got team 9, the elite running back with a very solid Amon-Ra St. Brown, who I have as a top 6 wide receiver with the suspension and injuries on that Detroit team. The elite rushing quarterback in round 4. If I'm going to reach on Calvin Ridley, I would have loved to have Trevor Lawrence fall to me. That would have been best case scenario. But when you draft Lamar Jackson, you don't even open yourself up to that possibility, especially when you go get Evan Ingram later on in the draft. Trevor Lawrence really would have completed this team. Rachaad White, one of my favorite picks in fantasy drafts this year, and go and get some high upside players like Jalen Ward and Tyjae Spears in the late rounds. I think this is a phenomenal team right here. at least to start the season. Some missed opportunities with some stacks in the middle of the draft, in my opinion, but still a good team. And at number 1, I love Team 7. Saquon Barkley and Nick Chubb, who has possibility to be a top 3 running back in this Cleveland Browns offense, while at the same time, you're still able to get some wide receiver and quarterback values. Devonta Smith, DK Metcalf, Christian Watson, and Kyle Pitts in the 8th round. I love that value. This is a very complete team with Justin Herbert to tie it all together. If I'm this team, I might be looking to trade for one of those Los Angeles Chargers wide receivers, really get a correlation on this unit together. But all in all, a very even draft. It's hard to pick even the bottom teams in this league. Very close. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next week with another episode of the Fantasy Birds.